This is a story about living with integrity. So it was springtime when kings go out to war, but David sent his army to battle and stayed in the city of Jerusalem. And after his afternoon sleep, he woke up, and in the cool of the evening he was walking on the roof of his palace, and he looked over the edge and he saw this beautiful woman washing herself after her period, and said, "Who's that?" to a servant. "It's the wife of your faithful soldier Uriah, your majesty." "Get her for me." So Bathsheba was brought for the king, and he lay with her. Sometime later, she sent a message to the palace to say, "I'm pregnant." So David said, "Get me Uriah from the front line." And when Uriah arrived, he said, "Tell me about the battle. What's going on?" And when Uriah had talked about all that had happened, he said, "Now go and relax with your wife." And later he sent a present to the house. But Uriah didn't go and sleep with his wife. He bunked down with the palace guards. The next day when David heard, he called Uriah, "Why didn't you go and spend some time with your wife?" "Your Majesty, how could I go and sleep with my wife and relax when the king's army and the tent of the Lord's presence, the symbol of him being with us, is in the open field?" So that night, David got Uriah drunk. "Go home and sleep it off." But Uriah again bunked down with the palace guards. So David wrote a letter to the head of the army and said, "Put Uriah in the front line, and in the heat of the battle, pull back so that Uriah is killed." He sealed the letter and sent it with Uriah. And Uriah carried it and gave it to the army commander. And in the heat of the battle, the army pulled back and Uriah was shot and killed. A messenger came to David and told him, "We lost the men. They were shot from the top of the wall of the city we're attacking." "Oh," said David, "and Uriah, your servant, was killed." "Oh, tell the commander of the army that these things happen. Men die here, men die there." So after the prescribed period of mourning for the death of Uriah, David took Bathsheba as his wife, and a baby boy was born. So it was announced to David, "The messenger of God is here, your majesty." And Nathan the prophet walked in. "Your majesty, can I tell you a story?" "Yeah." "We're in a village and there's a very rich man who has lots of sheep and lots of cattle. But there's a poor man who has just one sheep that he raises as his own child, cuddles it on his lap and feeds it from his own bowl and makes it drink from his own cup. But then the rich man has a guest and takes the one lamb of the poor man and kills it to feed his guest. That man should die," says David, "and he should pay back 4 times what he has taken." "That man is you," says Nathan the prophet. "God raised you up to be king over Israel and Judah in the place of Saul, and you got all his wives and concubines, and you could have had anything you wanted. God would have blessed you more and more, but you chose to go against the word of God. And so what you did in private will be done to your womenfolk in public, and your children will squabble and fight and kill each other. Ah, this is David. And the Psalm 51 captures his thoughts. Have mercy on me, O God, because of your unfailing love, because of your great compassion, blot out the stain of my sins. Wash me clean from my guilt, purify me from my sin. For I recognize my rebellion. It haunts me day and night. All of us have done wrong things, big and small. What do you do with them? How do we live with integrity? Who do we go to find forgiveness?